Welcome back to the Wingspan podcast, episode 29. I'm Doug Barak, joined by my co-host Chris Mulholland of Nets Daily and our special guest. Our guest is the social media coordinator for the Brooklyn Nets and assistant general manager of Nets Gaming Crew.
We welcome Wael and Ankouni to the podcast. Thank you for taking some time out of your day to join Doug and I. What's going on, man?
Appreciate you guys having me on, man. A ton of stuff's going on. I actually got a big Nets GC game tonight, big Nets game. Excited for him.
Well, we're glad to have you on, and we hope you guys get the dub.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, so I guess we'll kick it off first since what you've been up to since COVID-19 kind of put the world at halt.
Yeah, it's been nonstop work, to be honest with you guys. Right now I'm working, full time for the Nets, also going to school full time. Really nothing ever took a pause since COVID started. It's still been, kind of all wheels forward. It's been a ton of work, but it's been a lot of fun as well. Working for the Nets is a blessing. It's a great organization to work for, and obviously I'm glad with a lot of people being unemployed right now and a lot of stuff going on due to the pandemic. I'm just grateful to really be have a job that I love right now. It's a blessing.
No, that's really great to hear. 2020 has not hit you yet. So let's talk about your journey and where you are today, and you can talk about the college that you implied and your first relevant position or internship.
Yeah, definitely. So, I started working in the NBA 2K League in general back in the first season when I got a job with the Wizards 2K League team. My position was draft analyst. So for the month leading up to the draft, I was assisting them with putting together their draft board, really just assisting them with all things draft related and personnel related. So that was a great first experience. And I think after that is when I really realized, hey, I want to do this full time. I want to find a full-time position in the 2K League. So fast forward a bit, I got a DM one day from one of my good friends, Jeff Eisenband, and he had said, hey, the Nets are looking for a social media person for their 2K League team. Would you be interested? Do you know anything about social media? At the time, I knew absolutely nothing about social media outside of me just having accounts and managing my personal pages, I guess. And so I told him yeah, I know everything about social media. I can do this for sure. I just wanted to get my foot in the door. So sure enough, I interviewed for it, got the job, and from then I just started working my tail off from the day I got there. And even though I wanted a bigger role on the 2K side, I kind of just embraced the social media role and just did my absolute best with it. And after a while, I got the opportunity to start working on the net side for social media. When my coworker Jordan Rabinowitz, huge thanks to him because he believed in me enough to give me a shot to work on the net side. And since then, I've been balancing both of managing Nets GC social media and assisting on all things Nets. And then come season 3, I brought up the idea to Kurt, who's our general manager and head coach, about possibly becoming assistant GM of the team. And as soon as I brought it up, he was all for it, and he kind of made that happen. So grateful to him as well.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I really like that you had that foot in the door mentality and really ran with it. So that's really impressive. So you said you didn't have a lot of experience when you took on the internship. So what kind of things have you really improved on that you can say is your niche thus far?
Yeah, just to clarify, it wasn't an internship. It was a full-time job.
Okay.
From the beginning, which was, it was crazy to me because this was my first, real job. I think the biggest thing for sure was Jordan really just taking me under his wing and showing me the ropes of everything. He was always willing to teach, and I was always willing to listen. And I kind of just, watched him and observed everything he was doing for a while and just started learning from him. And over time, I feel like I've gotten a lot better at social media.
That's good to hear. And then a popular question I like to ask on this as well is mostly your mentors, at least in my opinion, are very big things that mostly correlate to every guest that we have. So in your short career so far, who have been some of your mentors and what is the best advice that you have received, whether it correlates to what you're doing exactly or if it's just life advice in general?
Yeah, definitely. I think, there's a lot of people I consider mentors, but I think 3 of them really stick out specifically. First, I'll say Jordan, just for him, really showing me the ropes and taking me under his wing. I'll always appreciate that. And, as far as I end up going, in life, I'll always be thankful for that, because that's really what, made me a ton better at social media. Someone else I consider is Kurt, definitely, because I mean, if Kurt hadn't believed in me and given me the opportunity to become assistant GM, then I'd probably still be doing social media right now and just wishing that I was doing, something similar to what I'm doing now. And last, I'll say Joshua Pruss, who's the senior vice president of global partnerships for BSE Global. He actually overlooks NetsGC. I remember when I first got the job, I had gone into his office, and the first thing he told me was, "Hey, listen, you work your tail off. I promise you good things will happen." He's like, "Just do your absolute best, and let's see where it goes from here." And sure enough, I ended up working on the net side, just following that advice. So that's something I'll always cherish.
That's great. That's great to hear. So we'll switch gears a little bit. So when did you begin, first realize that you wanted a career in esports? What video games did you play growing up, whether it was 2K or not? And were you a console or computer gamer?
Definitely. So I was always a console gamer. I was always into sports video games as well. I was always 2K, Madden, FIFA. Since I was young. I mean, I've been playing 2K since 2K9. And I'd say when I really realized that I wanted a career in esports was once I got that Wizards job. I think that's what really opened my eyes to being like, hey, this is something I can really do full time and make a living off of, and this is something I really want to chase after and make a reality.
That's interesting. And then I got to ask you too, is I know when Ivan he came on, he talked about all the consoles that he mostly grew up with and was kind of mostly captured his passion for gaming and stuff like that. So when you were growing up, what was like your main go-to console and stuff like that?
I started off on the PlayStation 2 and then transitioned to PlayStation 3 to Xbox 360 to now Xbox One. So I've kind of gone from the PlayStation family to the Xbox family.
Oh, okay. I like that. And then what are some of your favorite games to play now? I know obviously you're a busy guy and all, but when you have your time to sit down and play a little bit of video games, what's like kind of your go-to game or your go-to console right now?
I always find time for video games, man. Always. I don't think that's something I'll ever stop. I'll probably be 70 years old still playing video games. Right now, I mean, obviously outside of 2K, I've been big on Call of Duty Warzone. I think everybody's been big on that lately.
Oh,
Yeah.
Doug's big on Warzone.
That's my game.
That's Doug's game.
On Xbox as well. So we'll link up after, I'm sure.
Got to get a dub every day, Doug. one dub a day.
I can't live up the time I came in second place the other day. It really bothered me in solos.
But yeah, I mean, Warzone's been like my game recently. That's what I've been like really playing in my free time.
Are you a Fortnite guy at all, or not really?
I was not. I never got on the Fortnite hype. I think it was the building in Fortnite that kind of turned me off and
it's tough.
Shy away from it.
I agree with that.
I actually played. I played PUBG when Fortnite was really getting all the hype and everything. I played PUBG, which is another battle royale game.
I couldn't get into that one.
I actually enjoyed that a lot. That's what really got me into battle royales, and then I transitioned to Warzone when that came out, and I haven't really looked back.
I like that. And then I guess we could transition a little bit onto this point to talk about NetsGC and what you do and everything. But before we really deep dive into everything, what have been some of your most memorable moments from a broad point of view thus far?
For the NetsGC season?
Yeah, for NetsGC.
I mean, honestly, outside of draft night and really it being my first draft and getting to put together, an entire team with Kurt and actually getting to call in picks and select players and all that fun stuff, I think last night's win for whatever reason was really memorable to me, just because, obviously it being the Knicks, it's always special to beat the crosstown rivals. I feel like yesterday is probably when we looked our absolute best and when we hit our peak of the season. And I feel like we're hitting our peak at the perfect time, heading into this, crazy playoff race and playoff starting up real soon. So I'll definitely say last night's win over the Knicks.
And then a little bit off air, we talked about kind of when I was at the first draft night in the Barclays Center, and I felt the energy once I walked in there. I knew it was like something different. It was something new. For me, it was something new to cover as well, since you guys were just coming in your first season and everything. Can you describe to our listeners kind of that what was in that building on the first draft night, kind of emotion-wise, and kind of just put it all in like a big picture as someone who actually worked the event?
Yeah, it's nuts. It's obviously something new for us as well. It's mimicking the NBA and just from playing, it's like playing video games can get you the same experience as like an NBA player in terms of getting drafted, walking the stage, grabbing your team's draft cap, shaking the commissioner's hand, all that stuff. I mean, it's just crazy that video games have come this far. And I think for a lot of people, it doesn't really hit like that until they get into the building and they sit down and they're waiting to get their name called. So it's surreal. There was a ton of emotions in the building for sure.
It's wonderful. And can you talk about your duties in general as the assistant general manager for Nets Gaming Crew?
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, on top of managing our social media accounts, I'm also assisting our head coach and GM, Ivan Curtis, in all things in relation to team management, player management, roster moves, scheduling practices, working with our players one-on-one to just, work on their strengths, work on their weaknesses, and overall just being there for our players.
That's good. That's good. And then as the assistant general manager, Nets GC, kind of, especially at your age, when you were kind of embraced with that role in the beginning, what was your kind of like your overall emotions going into it? Were you like, oh, I'm ready for this? Or were you like, oh, okay, like just talk me through like when they gave you that position and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, as soon as I got it, it was like an I'm ready mentality. I was ready to get going. I felt like I was ready for it. Regardless of my age, I felt like I was knowledgeable enough to excel in this role, and I feel like I'm just super grateful to Kurt and Josh for giving me the opportunity, actually putting trust into me for to actually take on this role at such a young age. But yeah, I mean, from the start, it was always just like let's go, let's get it. Like from the start, I just really wanted to get going.
Yeah, and one important thing about Nets Gaming Crew is the outstanding logo you have. So can you talk about the reveal?
Yeah, I mean, the reveal actually happened before I was here, but I love our logo personally. I love all of our team merch and everything. I feel like we have one of the best logos in the 2K league. But yeah, I mean, like I said, it wasn't here, but I don't know if you guys have noticed it. Our logo is basically the Brooklyn Bridge that's been turned into like a basketball hoop essentially. So shout out to our creative team for coming up with that. I think it's great. I know our players all love it as well.
And you mentioned the merchandise, sorry, Chris. But what's the one piece of gear, Nets Gaming Crew, that you own and wear nonstop that people wouldn't recognize you unless you had it on?
Oof, man. I mean, my entire wardrobe is basically turned into just Nets and Nets GC gear. I'm wearing that almost every day. I think my favorite piece is this gray Nets Gaming Crew hoodie that I wear a lot. I feel like I've been wearing it since media day. But it's like my go-to piece. I wear it around the house a lot, so that's probably my favorite piece.
And then I got to ask you as well, as kind of putting in the assistant general manager's perspective, can you just take us through, especially our viewers as well, kind of take us through a Nets GC practice, kind of what goes into it. Everyone's kind of like, everyone obviously, when you think of a Nets GC practice, you think of, okay, they just do one-on-ones or practice on the court and stuff like that. But can you just take us through like what goes into a Nets GC practice?
Yeah, definitely. So our practices will usually go, about 4 to 6 hours long. They usually consist of our guys coming in. We immediately, watch film, break down film, whether it's on us on the previous week or on an upcoming opponent. After that, we usually have scrimmages scheduled. So the way NBA 2K League teams practice is scheduling scrimmages against each other, since it requires all 5 players to have gaming PCs and everything. It's just not realistic to have a practice squad right now. So we have to practice against the teams that we actually compete against for the money. But yeah, we schedule scrims against teams that we're not supposed to be playing for a while. We strategically plan them to where we're not running into a team too close when we actually play them. So we usually play, a team or two every day. And throughout the entire practice, we're just walking through, things that look good, things that we need to work on, plays that we have to run. We have an entire playbook. I don't know if a lot of people know that, but I mean, it's very similar, I feel like, to what, real sports practices are like, except everything's virtual.
That's cool. And then, obviously, with everything going virtual due to the virus going around, was it any type of challenges that you saw from kind of your perspective when it came to, like, practices or kind of even networking with the team in general? Just what were some of the obstacles within that?
Yeah, so, I mean, as soon as COVID hit, a lot of our team meetings were switched to Zoom. We had moved all of the guys' equipment from they practice at the Barclays Center right now. We moved all of their equipment from the Barclays Center to their team apartments in Manhattan. And and they were actually practicing from home, similar to how a lot of other NBA 2K League teams were doing until it was safe to access the Barclays Center again. So it was crazy, and I'll never forget that day of us going in there and moving, tons of computer monitors and computer towers and wires and controllers and headsets and all that stuff, and packing it up into a van and taking it, to the team apartments, putting it all back together.
Yeah, no, that's a lot of equipment that you guys got to handle. So you kind of give us a visual for our imaginations, at least, what the war room is like, the gaming setup, because I know OG mentioned it when he came on the pod of how the first time, like the reveal when going to the practice facility at HSS, for example. So kind of bring it to life in your own words.
This podcast episode is brought to you by Anchor. Anchor is an app that allows podcast producers to record and create original content. It is free to record and create a podcast, giving producers the ability to easily edit their material off their phone or computer. Anchor allows producers and talent to make money off their work with no minimum listenership. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you on platforms such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and many more. To get started, Anchor app or go to anchor.fm. Anchor for Doug and I has been great and allows us to bring unique, creative, and opinionated content to listeners of the Wingspan podcast.
Our practice facility?
Yeah, your setup, yeah.
Yeah.
And game night as well, kind of going through the vibes and the feel.
Yeah.
Materialistically, at least.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, our practice facility being inside Barclays Center is crazy. A lot of these guys that we draft come in, and it's their first time in an NBA arena, let alone, working in one every single day. As soon as you step in, you've got all the guys' computer setups to the right. We have 10 total computers just for when we host, local gaming camps, hosting local kids to come through and play against our guys. To the left, you have like a whole couch, ping pong table, TV setup where, the guys, they're always relaxing, watching other games, watching NBA games. And surprisingly, I mean, they're super competitive ping pong players as well. So there's that. A game day for us is a lot of listening to music, everybody kind of getting their mental right. I feel like being a professional esports athlete is a lot about the mental aspect. So, I mean, they're just trying to clear their minds, similar to how, real NBA players are, just listening to music, getting loose, getting shots up, similar to how NBA players do as well. I mean, even though it's virtual, you still have to perfect your shot timing before the game. So it's a lot of that. It's kind of just everybody vibing out, just relaxing before the game.
And then one thing I want to ask you, too, is, as your other position with the social media, and especially tracing back to the beginning, I guess you could say the first season, even to today with the second season, can you talk about the social media team's impact with Nets GC?
Yeah, I think when social media was first started for the 2K League team, I think it was kind of an all hands on deck thing where anybody in the organization who wanted to help out could help out, and they were kind of just looking to freestyle on it and just kind of get creative. I think once they started getting their hands a little dirty with it, they decided that it was probably worth bringing on a social media coordinator to manage it who knows a little bit more about 2K. I think it's awesome personally just to have a team account that's covering all your games in real time, that's covering all of your community events, and really just showcasing the players' personalities. It's huge. I think it's what esports kind of runs off of. I think content is what keeps esports going. So it's huge.
Yeah, you brought up a good point. So can you talk about how that has that impact on gathering and building a fan base, especially for something so brand new?
Yeah, definitely. I think with 2K specifically, I think everybody thinks they can be a great 2K player, right? Because 2K is a casual game. A ton of people play it. It's probably I think it's the highest selling sports game in the United States, every year. To get people engaged onto this stuff and really hooked onto the NBA 2K League, I think you need to showcase that your players are entertaining, showcase that they're funny, that they're worth tuning in to watch, and that's where social media comes in, and where it's important to have a content team behind your esports team, whether it's creating stuff on YouTube or just creating stuff for your social media pages. It goes a long way in bringing in fans. A lot of people just tune in simply because somebody made them laugh in a content video, and they want to watch them play 2K now.
Yeah, so can you talk about the dualities of some of your players? Because some of them are indeed influencers in their own rights.
Yeah.
So what is it like managing those type of, personalities, both, I mean, definitely in a positive sense?
Yeah. First person that comes to mind is Chalk, our point guard. I'm pretty sure has the biggest following in the entire league of any player. He's a big time YouTuber. He's a big 2K YouTuber. He creates a ton of content on his own time, which at first, I mean, we were a little concerned about just given that being a 2K League player takes so much time out of your day. So we were wondering, how is he going to balance managing his YouTube channel and also managing, practice and all his team requirements. But kudos to him. He's done a great job this season. His fan base is still, just going up every single week. It seems like he's going up thousands and thousands of subscribers. And he's been nothing but open to helping us out on the team side and helping us create content. And he just wants to help the brand grow as well.
Yeah, no, I've definitely noticed that, and I've seen his mom, number one fan, is probably one of your biggest supporters as well.
Yeah,
So I like that social media presence. It's great.
Yeah.
That's cool. And then what? And then, as many of our listeners know, OG Kinkert was one of our past guests recently. But take it as it is. What was it like working? What is it like working for him underneath him?
It's awesome, man. Kurt's probably the best boss I could ask for on the 2K side of things. He's always willing to have open ears and listen to other people's opinions, which I think is what makes him such a great GM. He doesn't try to do everything himself. Doesn't try to be the captain of the ship at all times. He wants it to be a group effort with anything, whether it comes to starting lineups, whether it comes to trades, whether it comes to who to draft. He's always willing to listen, which is huge because it gives me an opportunity to voice my opinion and really give my input on certain things. So it's huge.
And then to kind of talk about, we've mentioned this a couple times already, but in your own opinion, at least this interests me, from covering it the first season when you guys first made waves in the NBA 2K League, and then to today, the second season. Obviously, we're going to touch on tonight's game, which is very big for you guys. But what are some of the main things you see, like differential-wise, from the first season to the second season?
Honestly, the biggest thing has definitely been COVID and the entire season being online. It's been a huge, huge change. Last year we were playing at the NBA 2K League studio in person. Teams were flying in every single week to come compete, and playing on stage with the other team directly in front of you or across from you to playing online in the comfort of your own home is a lot different. It comes down to a lot of things, different internet connections, how much space you have in your team apartments, if you have to go to your team apartments to have a gaming setup. So I mean, there's a lot that goes into it, and it's definitely been a unique season for sure.
And can you talk more about tonight? As you mentioned off the air, it's a win and we're in type game. So what are your keys to the game? What are the emotions you and the players are kind of feeling right now?
Yes.
What are your current expectations thus far?
For sure. We're playing a great team in the Hornets tonight. Their 4 and 5 are their two best players. Their power forward, Zay Bucks. He's been well known as the best power forward in the league, and their center type. He's if anything a top 3 center in the league, probably the best defensive center in the league. So it's a huge challenge for us, and what me and Kurt were really stressing to the guys yesterday. For a lot of you guys, like it's the biggest 2K game or series you'll ever play in your life. From this point on, we're in playoff mode, so we can't really lose again for the rest of the year, or we're out. That's just how it's going to be. So I think the guys all understand the magnitude of tonight's game, and they're all extremely hungry for this. I think we're going to perform great.
And then since this episode's pre-recorded, and obviously by the time of the release, we'll know the outcome of tonight's big game. But how do you prepare for, as you mentioned, they got two good players, and they got one of, like you said, the best power forward in the league and everything. So how do you guys prepare for that? Do you guys take the kind of a typical basketball approach? Do you watch film on them, or do you do more of a kind of a deep dive, something more of kind of a gaming perspective of kind of watching film and stuff like that? How do you prepare for such a big matchup?
Yeah. So thankfully, I mean, we have an entire team of film junkies, including myself and Kurt. We all love breaking down film, watching film. So typically what we do to prepare for any matchup is just watch their last few games, pick up on any tendencies that we see, any little things that we can take advantage of that can push the game in our favor. We're looking for all the little things. So, for example, we're looking for, how often does this guy backdoor cut? How should we be looking out for that for a lot of the game? how often does their power forward box out? How often does he let the guy slip by him? Just little things like that. Similar to how the real NBA works. It's just a ton of film.
And then switch gears a little bit. But to kind of change it, it's a little bit of a fun question. We actually OG can hurt this as well. But if you were in charge of creating the next NBA 2K, who would be your cover athlete? I guess that's the first part of the question. And then what features or game modes would you want to add or even subtract? And do you think that NBA 2K will be the next large game to add crossplay?
Yeah, I'm biased. I put KD on the cover with a Brooklyn Nets jersey on for sure. I
like it.
I think we got to get a Brooklyn Nets cover on there, just given that the Nets are rising, and next year's probably going to be a great year. I would love to see the Nets on the front page, especially KD. I'm sorry, Doug. What was the second part of your question?
Kind of what features or game modes would you add or even subtract to the NBA 2K game?
Yeah, definitely. I think the biggest thing is a lot of people I don't think know this is the NBA 2K League build of the game actually isn't available on the retail version of the game. It's played on PC, and it's only available to play for people who are actually in the league. So personally, I'd love to see the league build of the game be put into the retail version to where everybody who wants to play it can play it. Personally, I think that's the next step. I think a lot of people would have a lot more interest for the league seeing the actual build that the professionals are playing in the game.
And then the last part of that question is, do you think that NBA will be the next large game to add crossplay?
Honestly, I really hope so. I think, especially with like the neighborhood and all the different stuff that NBA 2K has in it, I think it's almost a must. You shouldn't have to make people choose a different console to play with their friends. So, I really hope so, to be honest.
And then on top of that, Doug, this I guess is my last part of the question, but one question came to my mind. As someone who is who's played this game for a long time and everything, can you describe to our listeners that don't necessarily play 2K a lot, can you just describe the NBA 2K community the best you can, in your opinion? I know it's a very broad question, but if you had to describe to someone who is looking to get into NBA 2K or hasn't even touched a controller necessarily, but can you just talk about kind of what that community is and like, can you just describe it?
Yeah, so the NBA 2K community really lives on Twitter. It kind of depends on which mode of the game you're really trying to join, because I'd say this, the NBA 2K community is kind of split into subdivisions as well, where there's like, there's a park community, there's a My Team community, there's a My League one, a Pro-Am one. So just kind of finding your group of people who are into the same things as you are. And honestly, just from my experience in the NBA 2K community, it's been nothing but support. It's a bunch of supportive people who just want to help each other, grow if they're creating content, or really just play the game with people that they enjoy playing the game with.
Definitely. So looking forward to the future. What do you think is next for esports?
Honestly, I like to spin it just to the NBA 2K League specifically. I think the next step is getting more NBA teams to join. I think we all want to get to the point where every single NBA team has an NBA 2K League team. So honestly, I'm just looking forward to that and just seeing the NBA 2K League continue to grow.
Definitely. And lastly, switching back to the NBA, what have been your thoughts on the bubble since it's such a unique experience that hopefully we don't have to use again, but you never know?
Man, honestly, the bubble has like blown away my expectations. I feel like watching the games has been a lot more enjoyable than a lot of people expected. The whole concept of it is so interesting to me. Just having all the players there, having players from different teams in the same hotel, kind of doing being at the pool together. I saw a picture of like the Nets players and Rockets players at the pool together. I think it's awesome, and like as selfish as it is, like the bubble's been super enjoyable just from a fan perspective.
Definitely. Have you had the opportunity or been offered the opportunity to take a night off, become a virtual fan, see yourself on the big screen?
Yeah, they actually offered us the opportunity. They offered all employees the chance to be a virtual fan if they wanted to. I haven't taken the chance yet. Maybe I'll slide in there in the playoffs. We'll probably need all the support.
That sounds good. Yeah, I've been to 2 games thus far, and I'm invited to 2 more home games as of now. So maybe I'll see you come playoff time. So,
section.
And who do you think will win the bubble?
The NBA championship this year? Honestly, I mean, it's tough to go against LeBron and the Lakers this year. Just truthfully, I just don't see anybody beating them in a best of 7 series when it all comes down to it. So that's probably my pick this season.
Definitely. And what, from a content creation standpoint, has been your favorite part of the bubble?
Definitely all the fishing, all the golfing, all the pool activities, all of the off court stuff in the bubble has definitely been the most enjoyable, and I think it's what our fans have most enjoyed seeing, just the guys' personalities and what they're doing when they're not on the court.
Yeah, and what are your expectations for next season, outside of the bubble, hopefully, or we'll see.
I think our everybody's goals is championship next year. You know, with a fully healthy KD, fully healthy Kyrie. You never know what we're gonna do this off season. I think everybody's excited to see the new look Nets, and hopefully we're dominating the Eastern Conference.
I like it. I like it. And obviously, Doug, I've seen you on the virtual fan board plenty of times already. But hey, man, I hope to see you up there one day, whether what game it is. I hope to see both of you up there. But kind of just sign it off. Thanks again, Wael, for joining us. We really appreciate you taking some time every day to join Doug and I.
Thank you guys again for having me. I really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
Of course. And then this is your time. Let our listeners know where they could find you and plug your social media.
Yeah, definitely. I'm on Twitter and Instagram at WAELANK. And also just be sure to follow our team pages at Nets Gaming Crew.
Definitely. Well, once again, we're glad to have you on. Hope you guys win the series tonight. And like Chris said, I look forward to seeing you in the bubble.
For sure. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Of course. Chris, it's time to give the closing remarks.
Yeah, remember, guys, feel free to send over any suggestions, questions, comments, or thoughts on any of our content by sending an email to wingspanpodcast@gmail.com. And do not forget to follow us on our social media channels. But most importantly, make sure you subscribe to our podcast on your preferred listening service. As for next time, stay classy, take care, and keep staying safe. Wear the mask.